Now we come to the agro-farm forestry by paper industry. Over the last 3 years, realizing that there is a shortage of fiber in the country, the pulp and paper industry has done very pioneering, significant work in agro-farm forestry. Now all paper mills which are wood-based have their own nurseries. They do a lot of scientific R&D to develop clones which are disease and drought resistance, which can be grown in variety of agroclimatic conditions. This is also done in many parts of the country in backward, marginal or sub-marginal land, which is potentially unfit for other use. Paper industry has been investing a lot, like I said, on plantation R&D, on development and production of high quality clones, providing technical extension services, handholding of marginal farmers over a gestation period of 4 to 5 years for each crop. So the paper industry has been investing a lot of resources and expertise in agro-farm forestry. Next slide, please. According to our estimates, around 5 lakh farmers are engaged in growing plantations. Solely on the efforts of the pulp and paper industry, we estimate that around 1.25 lakh hectares are being brought under agro-farm forestry on an average basis annually. Cumulatively, around 12 lakh hectares have come under plantation. This has not only helped in, providing employment for local communities in rural areas, but has also supplemented, farm incomes, provided farmers additional, source of income apart from, the variety of environmental benefits. You would have seen in the last State of Indian Forest report also that there has been a growth in trees outside forest in the last 10 years or so. Next slide, please. Now, similarly, all wood-based industries in India, like also highlighted by the previous speaker, the major area of concern is raw material shortage. India is a wood fiber deficit country, and this acts as a major constraint for all wood-based industries, including the paper industry. Like I explained, we have done a lot on agro-farm forestry, and over 90% of the wood which is required by the paper industry is met through agro-farm forestry, and rest through, government and other sources, FDEC auctions and things like that. According to our estimates, we require on an annual basis around 11 million tons, while the domestic availability is only 9 million tons. And we expect, as the demand for paper and the consumption of paper goes up in the country, the demand for wood would also go up and is projected to rise to 15 million tons per annum by 2024-25. Like I said in my earlier slide, paper is recycled several times. Even the waste paper collection or recovery mechanism, which we called, is not very strong in the country and is largely in the informal sector. So apart from the virgin fiber, which we get from wood or agro residue, we also have a very strong segment, almost 71% of the paper production, which is based on recycled fiber, RCF as we call it. Next slide, please. Now, as a result of this, we need to import almost 1 million tons of wood pulp every year and recovered paper or waste paper of 6 to 7 million tons per annum. This is required both for domestic value addition and to meet the growing demand for paper in the country, and also for exporting from India to other countries. Now, like I said, availability of wood, the raw material, is the foremost constraint for paper and pulp industry in India. If we see competing countries like, say, Indonesia, each ton of wood, there's a cost differential of 50 to 70 US dollars. And due to this, 1 ton of paper, which is the finished product, there's a cost differential of 150 US dollars. Now, in a product which is priced at, say, $800 to $1,200 per ton, a cost differential just because due to high cost of raw material of $150 makes our industry not very competitive. So as a result, over time, the cost of raw material is going up, and also increase in, the energy cost and other inputs like chemicals is making our industry not very competitive as compared to some other countries like Indonesia. Next slide, please. This will show you the export and import figures in volume terms of paper. Now, please, for 2020 and 21 year, the figures are a bit misleading because of the pandemic impact. But you can see that imports over the years have gone up, but so have exports, and the country, our paper mills have started also focusing on exporting. But the gap between imports and exports is pretty significant if you leave out the 2020-21 figures, because that was on account of the pandemic. Next slide, please. Now, there are various development challenges for the industry which I have listed out. One is that we don't have economies of scale in our country because the units are not very large as compared to global standards, and the industry is quite fragmented. To give you an example, one of the world's largest pulp and paper manufacturers, which is Asia Pulp and Paper of Indonesia, their installed capacity is virtually the same as the entire installed capacity of India. So we need to work on these issues, plus modernization of mills, infusing more clean and green technologies, building new capacities. We also need to benchmark our quality with global benchmarks. The top few producers of paper is equivalent to the best in the world. But we have a lot of small and medium players who need to improve their quality. I've already talked about development of raw material base. We need to be more competitive to face global competition. And of course, as the environmental standards and regulatory compliances are becoming more and more stringent, we need to work towards this issue. Next slide, please. One of the major recommendations regarding raw material from our industry, we have already, demonstrated the potential to enlarge the country's tree outside forest area. We have been suggesting to the government that they should consider making available some part of the country's degraded forest land, FDC land, or other non-forest government land for pulpwood plantations. This would, in our estimates, if additional 25 lakh hectares of degraded land in the country is harnessed for agroforestry program, it can provide employment to 10 to 15 lakh persons. Of course, supplement income of farmers, increase in country's tree cover, and also generate enough raw material for all wood-based industries at globally competitive rates, and not only for pulp and paper. just to conclude, we have been closely associated with the national objectives of literacy, greening India, rural employment, and usage of sustainable resources, besides meeting paper needs of the consumers. Like I mentioned before, paper is one of the most environmentally sustainable products. At it is 100% biodegradable. It is recyclable. I said earlier that it can be recycled 6 to 7 times and is produced from sources which are renewable and sustainable. Thank you. I think that concludes my presentation.